Private Sarah Dalton stepped off the drop shuttle and into a haze of dust and heat. Rither 9 smelled like rust and ozone, the kind of place that didn't care if you lived or died. Her boots sank slightly into the gritty soil, and already her uniform stuck to her skin. The welcome she received from her new unit wasn't hostile, but it wasn't warm either. Traka barked a laugh the moment she stepped into the briefing chamber. "That's the human? Looks like a protein tube with legs." No one disagreed. The others, Kirill with his scaled jaw clicking, Celine adjusting her thermal rifle with pointed disinterest, all dismissed her without words. Sarah said nothing. She'd expected this. It wasn't new. Every time humans entered a new coalition sector, this happened. They weren't trusted, not because they'd done anything wrong, but because they didn't fit the mold. Too emotional, too fragile, too unpredictable. That was the common wisdom. Sarah had learned to carry that weight without flinching. She was assigned basic duties. Observation logs. Inventory checks. No one gave her real gear, just a sidearm. No field responsibilities either, just support detail. She didn't argue. Instead, she watched. Listened. Memorized the terrain maps in the off hours and tuned into the encrypted chatter. Patrol zones stretched across miles of barely charted jungle, deep ridges, and tectonic craters. This planet wasn't just wild, it was alive in a way most worlds weren't. Call, the squad's unofficial loudmouth, made it a daily ritual to mock her. Human ears don't twitch. Can't smell ambushes. She'll get us all killed because her eyes are slow. When the squad ran combat sims, they disabled her interface link, left her with slow feeds, and then laughed when her reactions lagged behind. But Sarah didn't react the way they expected. She didn't snap or crumble. She recorded everything: bandit movement patterns, ecosystem disruptions, migratory anomalies. When her patrol shift ended early, she took longer walks on the edge of authorized zones, never breaking protocol, but always getting just close enough to study the behavior of local species. Rither 9 had predators no one had catalogued properly. Large footprints appeared outside perimeter lines. Deep claw gouges in the rocks. Patrols found shredded exocytes from bandits who strayed too far, corpses untouched except for one thing: their hearts were missing. The squad joked about ghosts or monsters. Sarah didn't laugh. She filed quiet reports, noting behavioral consistency. Whatever was out there wasn't killing at random. It was hunting with purpose. Patterns emerged: ambush zones, feeding grounds, protective borders. She theorized a territorial apex predator, not seen directly but leaving trails for those who paid attention. Her findings were ignored. "Maybe your human imagination's getting the best of you," Call said. But she wasn't imagining it. Once, near the southern ridge, she spotted movement in the fog, a towering silhouette watching from the tree line. It didn't move aggressively. It didn't chase her. It just observed. She backed away slowly, heart hammering, not making a sound. That was weeks ago. Now, the unit faced more frequent raids. Bandits from the northern sectors, heavily armed ex-coalition deserters, tested the edges. Their tactics had grown bolder. They avoided alien patrols, but Sarah noticed they monitored transmissions carefully. When they learned a human had joined the unit, the attacks shifted in timing and location. They weren't afraid anymore. They were mocking, targeting her indirectly. In the squad's eyes, she was the liability. A weakness to exploit. That thought hardened her. She spent late hours refining her predictions of predator paths, layering movement trails with bandit activity. A collision seemed inevitable. She didn't tell command. She wasn't sure they'd care. One night, while the others slept, she hiked along the dry basin trail alone. At the far end, near a dried-out creek, she found fresh blood, small, scattered. Not human, not alien. Animal. A trail of it led into a crevice. Something had been attacked. Or hunted. She didn't go further. Instead, she knelt, quietly left her ration bar on a flat stone, and backed away without turning. The next morning, the bar was gone, the stone licked clean. Beside it, a clawed print, larger than her chest, pressed into the dirt like a signature. Sarah said nothing to anyone. They would only laugh, twist it into another joke about her soft human instincts. But she knew. Something watched her, and it hadn't chosen to kill her. In the barracks, she reviewed patrol logs while the others drank and argued over kill counts. She stayed silent. She knew their arrogance blinded them. The squad thought strength came from intimidation and brute force. Sarah believed it came from understanding. That belief was the only weapon she had, and on a planet like this, maybe it was the only one that would matter. A distress signal flared from the eastern ridge. A mining convoy had gone silent mid-transmission. The squad was dispatched immediately, moving fast through rough terrain. Sarah offered a shorter route based on the shifting geological plates she had been tracking, but the suggestion was waved off without acknowledgement. They followed the standard path, unaware of the trap awaiting them. The deeper they moved into the ravine zone, the more unnatural the silence became. No movement from fauna. No wind. Not even the usual low vibrations of subterranean tectonics. Sarah's skin prickled. Something was off. Without warning, plasma bolts rained down from elevated ridgelines. The ambush was clean, brutal, and perfectly timed. Bandits with cloaked armor and adaptive gear emerged from both sides, cutting off retreat. The patrol was caught between fire zones, their perimeter collapsing in seconds. The squad leader was hit in the initial wave, his chest plate sparking as he fell hard. Confusion and panic rippled through the unit. Kirill returned fire blindly. Tkal cursed, shouting for positioning, but they were already boxed in. Sarah pulled a downed trooper toward the shadow of a stone outcrop, shielding him with her frame while dragging her pistol. Her sidearm was underpowered, but she fired 3 tight shots to force a bandit to retreat. No one else covered her. The squad was fracturing fast. Tkal barked at her to stay down, to not interfere, but the bandits were advancing. One of them, masked in bone-white armor, pointed directly at her. "The human dies first," he called, voice amplified through a cracked speaker. Laughter followed. The enemy wasn't just attacking, they were hunting. Sarah scanned her options. No high ground. The cliff edges behind her led to a deep ravine drop, unstable ground. Her wounded squad mate lay groaning behind her. Backup was unreachable due to the interference field humming in the air. She moved methodically, sliding to a ridge wall, checking her ammo, calculating angles. The bandits were overconfident, pressing forward without formation discipline. They believed this was over. A few tried to flank left, expecting her to retreat. She didn't. Instead, she set a low-yield pulse mine, rerouted its frequency manually to compensate for interference, and primed it to detonate after the second bandit crossed the trip beam. When it triggered, the force wasn't fatal, but it sent 2 enemies sprawling backward. Dust clouded the field, giving Sarah a few seconds of breathing room. But they were relentless. 5 more bandits advanced. She retreated toward the edge. Her pistol hissed as the power cell depleted. She stood firm. No cover left. Only the ravine behind her and armed enemies in front. "You should have stayed behind the others," one sneered. "You're nothing without them." Another raised his rifle, casually. She tensed. The moment stretched, heavy with inevitability. Then, everything changed. A sound unlike anything they'd heard before echoed through the canyon. Low, guttural, and ancient. The bandits paused. One turned. Behind them, the fog thickened unnaturally fast. Shadows moved through it, massive, deliberate. Something emerged. At first, it looked like a trick of the light. Then it moved. Quiet but massive. 8 feet tall, limbs lean but muscled, covered in plated natural armor that shimmered with iridescent colors when caught by ambient glow. Its eyes didn't glow, they absorbed light. One bandit raised his weapon. The creature moved faster than the eye could follow, slamming into him and hurling his body across the rocks like a toy. Bones cracked audibly. Screams followed. The others opened fire. Plasma rounds struck its body and evaporated harmlessly against its hide. The predator moved through them like smoke and teeth, ripping armor apart, slashing open suits, taking down soldiers with silent precision. It didn't roar. It didn't make a sound after its first warning call. Sarah stood still, frozen between two kinds of death. But the creature stopped several meters away from her, crouching low, then rising again with a slow, calculated stare. It didn't charge her. It didn't growl. It simply watched. Then it turned its head slightly toward the remaining bandits, who were already fleeing in pure terror, stumbling over each other. Sarah didn't move. Her breathing slowed. The predator remained still for a moment longer, then stepped back into the fog without a trace. Silence returned. Not the dead silence of ambush, but the wary quiet of something powerful now present. Her calms flared back to life. She didn't speak. She waited. The surviving squad members regrouped behind her minutes later. None said a word. They looked past her at the bodies, the wreckage, the claw marks gouged into solid stone. She was no longer just a human. She was the one left standing when the planet's nightmare chose not to kill. The squad returned to base with injuries, unanswered questions, and a silence none of them could explain. No one spoke of the creature openly, but it haunted their eyes. Sarah filed her report first, stating only what could be proven: enemy ambush, unknown intervention, unidentified biological force. She didn't embellish. The others avoided the subject entirely. Carl remained uncharacteristically quiet, his usual sneer replaced by wariness. 2 days later, Command sent a follow-up recon mission to retrieve remaining equipment and confirm enemy casualties. The site was untouched, bodies of the bandits still where they fell, but stripped of weapons. Large claw marks remained embedded in rock. Vital organs were missing from the corpses. No scavenger left that kind of precision. The predator hadn't fed. It had made a statement. Sarah quietly compared the markings to the previous prints she'd tracked near the southern ridge. Same depth, same spacing. It was the same creature. She had encountered it before, long before the ambush. She hadn't told anyone. There hadn't been a reason then. Weeks prior, during a solo patrol just outside the formal grid, she found a young animal injured near a cave mouth, small, by predator standards, barely shoulder height. Scavenger drones circled it. It had a bleeding flank, maybe from a trap or territorial dispute. She hadn't approached. Just waited. When the drones came too close, she shot 2 of them from a distance, then backed away slowly. She didn't try to touch the creature. She left food behind. It didn't eat it in front of her, but the next day, it was gone, along with the animal. That moment had passed quietly, without consequence. Or so she thought. Now the apex predator had reappeared, not with hostility, but intent. It had spared her. Not out of mercy, but memory. Something in that first contact had registered. The creature hadn't seen a threat. It had seen an action, non-aggression, respect. Maybe even recognition. She didn't speak about the incident. Let the others believe whatever made them feel less vulnerable. But she watched. The animal's territory was broad, ranging from the ravine to the high ridge systems. More signs began to appear: shredded drones, patrolbot wreckage, motion-activated sensors twisted until useless. Always with surgical precision. The predator wasn't wild. It was calculating. And it was still near. At night, Sarah caught glimpses of motion beyond the perimeter lights. Never more than a silhouette. It didn't approach. Just observed. Sometimes, she'd walk the perimeter late on purpose. Not armed. Not armored. Just there. Each time, it would remain still, then vanish. A pattern. Not coincidence. The squad grew uneasy. Kirill claimed he heard it breathing in the mist. Celine started sleeping with her weapon powered and close. Call began double-checking every entry point in their sector logs. The bravado faded. Paranoia took its place. Sarah, meanwhile, dove deeper into her studies of local fauna. She cross-referenced behavioral patterns from known apex species across similar ecosystems. None matched this creature. It had traits from multiple lineages: pack structure and isolation, ambush hunting without consumption, territorial rituals with memory-based decision-making. One night, she submitted an encrypted personal log to Central Research Command, theorizing a high-intelligence predator native to Rither 9, possibly sentient, certainly beyond standard classification. Her evidence was circumstantial but compelling. She marked it. Non-hostile pending provocation. That last part was bold, but true. The shift in power dynamic became obvious when Bandit signals went dark across the southern corridor. Patrols sent to confirm found only abandoned camps, some with claw-marked warnings gouged into the rock. The message was clear: leave or be hunted. Word spread across outposts. Bandits began avoiding Rither 9 entirely. Within the squad, the tension fractured. They couldn't admit it out loud, but every time Sarah walked ahead on patrol, they let her. Every time she stopped to listen, they followed. No more jokes. No more side comments. She wasn't leading them by rank. She was leading because whatever lived out there had chosen not to kill her. When Carl finally spoke to her, his voice lacked its usual smugness. He simply asked, "Why didn't it touch you?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. It wasn't about dominance. It wasn't fear. It was a moment of understanding between two species shaped by different evolutions, but aligned in one trait: measured response over chaos. She didn't tame it. She didn't control it. That would have been a lie. But she had earned something better: acknowledgement. On a world where every species fought for supremacy, that was more powerful than any weapon. 3 days later, a second bandit cell broke into Sector 4's comm grid. Unlike before, they weren't scavenging, they were hunting for something. Their encrypted comms, intercepted briefly, revealed one goal: capture the human. The rest were expendable. Word of the encounter had spread. The story of a predator that spared a lone human had grown distorted through whispers and retellings. The bandits didn't believe it, they wanted proof. The squad assembled under emergency order. No one questioned Sarah's presence in the war room this time. Her knowledge of the predator's pathing patterns was the most accurate data they had. Carl stared but didn't argue when she marked likely interception points. Command reluctantly authorized a limited defensive response, assuming it would be enough. It wasn't. The bandits arrived under cover of a false distress signal. Their craft masked as a mining vessel, it breached planetary airspace and dropped soldiers fast, dispersing into the high jungle with jammer fields in place. Drones failed. Visual feeds blacked out. Sarah noted the path they took. They were headed into a known hunting zone, deep within the predator's territory. The squad moved fast but without leadership cohesion. Panic bloomed beneath the surface. Sarah urged them to alter course, predicting where the bandits would bottleneck. The commander hesitated. Then the predator intervened. Within minutes, static warnings erupted from outposts near the old ridge. Surveillance towers blinked out. No shots fired. Just silence. Sarah knew the pattern. The predator wasn't eliminating threats, it was sending a message. The squad still hesitated. Sarah didn't. She moved toward the ravine's mouth, adjusting signal frequency on her personal comm to avoid triggering the predator's defensive response. When she reached the drop ridge, signs of combat were fresh. Alien bodies broken, weapons bent, blood already drying. Yet no predator in sight. She moved carefully, scanning for remaining hostiles. 2 bandits cornered her with pulse weapons raised, demanding surrender. Before either could speak again, they froze. Something loomed just behind her. A shadow emerged. Silent, towering, and deliberate. The bandits screamed before firing, but it was already too late. One was slammed into the cliff face, the other disarmed and dragged into the dark by a blur of claws and muscle. The remaining bandit unit saw the carnage through their squadmates' comms and panicked. They broke formation, trying to escape back toward their ship, but Sarah had already activated a fallback trap, a pressure-triggered EMP mine, rigged with scrap materials and aligned to the predator's corridor. When it detonated, their systems failed, and within seconds, so did their coordination. The squad arrived seconds later, stunned to find the predator stalking behind Sarah, not attacking. Carl raised his weapon out of instinct, but Kirill slapped it down. No one dared speak. Sarah walked forward, pointing to a new direction away from the ridge. Push them there, she said flatly. It's where they'll be least likely to die in one piece. They obeyed. She became the command structure by necessity. The push worked. The predator flanked them without Sarah needing to direct it. As the surviving bandits fell back, two more tried to ambush from above. The predator launched into the air with impossible agility, tearing through their armor mid-leap, then vanishing again. At the final standoff, the bandit commander stood alone, defiant, rifle pointed at Sarah. He cursed her species, accused her of controlling monsters, of using ancient weapons. His voice cracked. His grip trembled. Sarah didn't answer. She didn't need to. The predator stepped into view behind her, slowly, without aggression, but with presence so overwhelming the bandit dropped his weapon without thinking. The sight broke him. His knees hit the ground. He surrendered before a word was spoken. No shot was fired to end it. No order was given. The predator simply watched, then turned and walked back into the tree-ling. The squad remained still long after the sounds of the jungle returned. Sarah holstered her pistol and walked past them, not saying a word. Not once had she asked for respect. She had just acted when no one else could. The mission was labeled a success, though the report left out key truths. Central Command credited the squad's strategy. The truth was quieter. Survival hadn't come from strength. It came from a moment of understanding, one predator to another. Back at base, nothing felt the same. The squad that once mocked her now avoided eye contact, not out of shame, but uncertainty. Sarah submitted her report with precise language, detailing enemy intent, tactical maneuvers, and outcomes without exaggeration. She left out the predator's decision-making, knowing command would disregard it or twist it into propaganda. No mention of eye contact, shared silence, or how it never once bared teeth in her direction. That part was hers alone. A debrief followed. Officials from Central Command attempted to extract tactical patterns, asking how she directed the creature. She offered no secrets because there were none. She hadn't commanded it. She had been present. Her choices hadn't been about dominance. They had been acts of restraint and observation. But they wouldn't understand that. Soon, whispers spread across sectors. Some believed she'd discovered a way to control apex lifeforms. Others claimed she was shielded by ancient tech or pheromone fields. A few thought she was dangerous. Her species was no longer dismissed as weak but categorized as unpredictable, capable of surviving what others couldn't. The squad changed in smaller, more telling ways. Kirill began following her patrol routes without question. Sleen, who once ignored her, now reviewed her terrain models in silence. Kahl approached with his helmet off for the first time, not as a rival, but as someone seeking understanding. He asked no questions. Just stood near her post and left quietly. She didn't claim leadership. She didn't need to. The weight of decisions shifted subtly toward her. When equipment failed, they asked what she would use. When terrain analysis was needed, they deferred to her logs. Respect had arrived not with ceremony, but through necessity. The creature was never seen again in full. Just shadows at the edge of motion sensors, shapes half seen in drone footage. It remained a myth to most. To Sarah, it was a constant presence, never close, never gone. It hadn't bonded. It had chosen once, and that was enough. Requests came in from research divisions. They wanted to interview her, replicate her behavior, study the event like a science experiment. She declined. No footage existed, no biological samples, no telemetry of the predator's direct movements. The only record was in memory and consequence. When a promotion offer came, she declined that too. A higher rank would mean transfer, political obligations, layers of distance between her and the frontier. She didn't want a desk or a spotlight. She chose instead to stay on Rither 9, citing continued ecological research. Command accepted with reluctance. Her daily routine remained unchanged. Patrols. Logs. Quiet walks near the border zones. She began documenting signs others ignored: fresh tracks near mineral-rich caverns, scavengers' shifts, canopy breaks too large for known creatures. She kept these files encrypted, not out of secrecy, but preservation. Some truths needed time before they were ready for explanation. One night, sitting at the edge of a crater ridge, she activated her private log, not for official archives, but for herself. In it, she recorded not what happened, but why it mattered. Noted the shift in perception, how species that once saw humans as biological outliers now watched them with cautious interest. Not because they were stronger, but because they reacted differently when faced with the unknown. She closed the file with a single entry. Empathy isn't weakness. It's a language too few speak on purpose. Here, it spoke back. The predator had not been a monster. It had been a mirror, silent, observant, decisive. Traits her species had as well, but rarely celebrated. On this planet, among strangers, she had proven that humanity didn't need to dominate to endure. The outposts grew quieter after that. Bandit traffic thinned. The jungle reclaimed trails. Rither 9 returned to its untamed rhythm. New recruits eventually arrived. One of them, a young alien barely out of training, asked who the human was. A veteran answered simply, "She's the reason we're still here." Sarah never heard the comment. She didn't need to. She wasn't looking for recognition. She was watching the forest line again, tracking faint movement through the underbrush. No threat, no warning, just a familiar rhythm. Whatever bond had formed wasn't about control or alliance. It had been an agreement between two lives that recognized restraint in one another. A decision made once, never needing to be made again. And that, in the end, was enough.